If you gave yourself just 6 months, no excuses, no distractions, your whole life could look completely different. And if that line made you pause, good. Because most people scroll past the very thing that could change them. This video is not just another talk. It's for the person who's tired of wasting time. Tired of watching others grow while they stay stuck. Tired of feeling behind, tired of starting and quitting, tired of living the same day over and over again. Give yourself 6 months to change everything isn't just a title, it's a decision. And this might be the first time someone tells you the truth without sugarcoating it. If you walk away now, nothing changes. You already know that. But if you sit with this, if you watch this to the end, you'll walk away with a mindset that doesn't rely on motivation ever again. So don't click off. Don't scroll. Stay locked in. This is the video your future self has been waiting for. Chapter 1. Be honest about what's actually ruining your life. That's the first step if you're serious about changing everything. And it's not a light step. It's not just a decision you make once and forget about. It's a process, a tough one. But it's the beginning of real transformation. You can't move forward if you keep pretending that everything is fine when it's not. You can't build a better life while you're still holding on to the same habits, excuses and behaviors that are quietly eating away at your potential. You can't fix what you refuse to face. And too many people spend their whole lives avoiding the truth about themselves. You've got to sit down and get brutally honest. Not emotional, not dramatic, just honest. Ask yourself, what's actually ruining my life? What am I doing every day that is holding me back? What thoughts do I keep believing that make me feel small? What choices am I making that I already know are leading me nowhere? For some people, it's procrastination. They keep putting things off, telling themselves they'll get serious tomorrow, but tomorrow keeps coming and going and nothing changes. For others, it's addiction, maybe to comfort, maybe to food, maybe to distractions. It's the same pattern. When things get hard, they escape, and the escape becomes the routine. For others, it's their mindset, always doubting, always afraid, always expecting the worst. They don't trust themselves. They don't believe they're capable of real growth, so they shrink, they hide, they stay small, and that mindset becomes their prison. And sometimes it's the people around you, people who don't want to grow, people who laugh when you talk about changing your life, people who pull you back every time you start moving forward. You've got to recognize those people, not hate them, not fight them, just recognize they're not going where you want to go. And maybe the truth is, you're the one who's letting them stay. You're the one who keeps saying yes when you should say no. You're the one who avoids conflict because it's easier than drawing a line. You're the one who's afraid of being alone, so you settle for being stuck. These are hard things to admit, but they're necessary. If you want to change your life in 6 months, you have to start by cleaning out what's been poisoning your progress. No more excuses, no more blaming your past, no more talking about how things should have been. That doesn't change anything. What changes your life is when you stop and say, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not living this way. I know what's hurting me, and I'm done allowing it to stay. That's when your life begins to move. Not when you buy a new planner, not when you watch another video, but when you face the truth and you make a decision that you're going to stop lying to yourself. And that means more than words, it means action. You've got to change the way you show up every day. If you're waking up late, dragging through the day, wasting time, living on autopilot, you already know that's ruining your life. You don't need another reminder. What you need is to change it. You know what foods leave you tired. You know which routines leave you feeling empty. You know which habits leave you feeling guilty. and you know exactly what behaviors you go back to when no one's watching. That's the truth you need to face. It's not complicated, it's just uncomfortable. And people avoid the uncomfortable because it doesn't feel good. But growth doesn't care about your comfort, it cares about your commitment. So take inventory, write it down, put it in front of your face. What are you doing that's holding you back? What thoughts are stealing your confidence? What people are draining your energy? What behaviors are leading you to regret instead of progress? Once you know what's wrong, you can start to fix it. You can't do it all in one day, but you can start today. That's what counts. Start by stopping the things that don't belong. If social media wastes your hours, get off it. If junk food makes you tired and unmotivated, clean up your meals. If the people around you keep making you feel small, get some space. If the things you do after work kill your momentum, switch them. It's not about being perfect, it's about being intentional. Every time you cut out something that's ruining your life, you create space for something better to grow. And it's not just about what you do, it's about what you tolerate. Stop tolerating mediocrity in your own behavior. Stop tolerating weak effort. Stop tolerating the same story you've been telling yourself about why you just haven't forced yourself to yet. 6 months can change your life. But only if you're honest about what needs to change. Most people want to skip this part. They want the plan, the routine, the checklist, but none of it works if the foundation is rotten. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to start removing what you already know is wrong. That's where the strength starts to build. That's when your self-respect starts to return. And the more honest you are, the faster your life changes. You'll start to see it in small ways first. You'll wake up with more energy, you'll feel better in your body, you'll feel proud of your choices, you'll start to believe you can actually do this, and then, little by little, everything starts to shift. But it starts with this: be honest, not just once, every day. Ask yourself, what am I doing right now that's helping me? What am I doing that's hurting me? And be willing to face the answer. That's how you change your life in 6 months. Not by luck, not by chance, but by getting real, getting serious, and getting to work. You don't have time to waste. You've already wasted enough. Now it's time to change, and that begins by telling yourself the truth, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Because once you do that, really do that, you take your power back. And from there, anything is possible. Chapter 2. Break the habits that make you hate yourself. If you want to change your life in 6 months, then you've got to stop doing the things that make you feel worse about who you are. It's that simple. You already know which habits are breaking you down. You already know what leaves you feeling empty, weak, lazy, or disappointed in yourself. And you can't keep living with that cycle if you expect your life to feel better. It won't. You can't keep waking up every day doing things that silently make you feel ashamed and expect your confidence to grow. It doesn't work that way. There are habits that you built over time that felt small at first. Maybe you picked them up when life was hard. Maybe you used them as a way to cope. Maybe they gave you some temporary comfort. But now they've turned into chains. Now you use them to hide, to avoid, to delay the life you know you're capable of. And every time you go back to them, something in you shrinks. That's not discipline. That's self-abandonment. You look in the mirror and you know the truth. You're not proud of the way you've been living. You're not proud of how you handle your time. You're not proud of the way you treat your body or your mind or your responsibilities. And that honesty is where the change begins. Because once you're honest about how those habits are affecting you, you can't unsee it. You can't keep pretending they're harmless. You can't act like they're just small things. They're not small. They're the reason you wake up tired. They're the reason you avoid the things that matter. They're the reason you don't respect yourself the way you should. And this isn't about being perfect. This is about getting tired of feeling stuck in a version of yourself you don't admire. It's about recognizing that every habit is either building you or breaking you. You don't have to be harsh with yourself. You have to be real. If you eat garbage all day, scroll endlessly through nonsense, skip workouts, avoid responsibilities, and fill your time with low-quality routines, you will not like your life. And worse, you'll start to feel like someone who doesn't deserve more. The truth is, you've developed habits that train you to settle. They train you to numb your emotions instead of processing them. They train you to avoid hard decisions instead of facing them. And over time, that builds self-hate, not all at once, but slowly, quietly. You don't even notice it happening, but suddenly you feel disconnected from yourself. You feel like you're wasting your time. You start to feel like your potential is slipping away. And when that becomes your normal, you stop expecting more from yourself. That's what these habits do. They lower your standards without you realizing it. They make you think discipline is too hard. They make you think you're not capable of real consistency. But you are. You're just buried under layers of behavior that were never designed to help you grow. And if you're going to break them, you have to stop negotiating with them. You have to stop saying, just one more day. Because every time you say that, you delay your future, and you lose more time that you'll never get back. You break those habits by replacing them with something that aligns with who you actually want to be. You stop numbing your emotions and start dealing with your life directly. You stop wasting your energy and start directing it with purpose. You wake up and you set a rule for yourself. No more actions that leave me feeling ashamed. That's a real rule. And when you follow that rule, your self-respect starts to return. It starts small. Maybe you wake up and instead of reaching for your phone, you get up and take care of your body. You drink water, you stretch, you go for a walk. Maybe you stop eating things that make you feel sluggish and irritated. You cook something clean. You slow down and give your body what it needs. Maybe you start writing down your thoughts instead of avoiding them. You process what's actually going on in your mind instead of running from it. These are not massive changes, but they are powerful because they prove something to you. You are not a slave to your habits. And yes, it's uncomfortable at first, because those habits have become your routine. They've become the way you soothe yourself, but they're not helping you anymore. You know that. So when you start changing them, your brain will resist. You'll feel that pull to go back to comfort. That's not weakness. That's just programming. You've wired your system to seek out those behaviors. And now, you have to rewire it, and you don't do it by trying to change everything in a day. You pick one thing. One behavior that makes you feel weak, one habit that ruins your mood, and you cut it. You replace it with something better. You make that one change every day for a week, then you add another. That's how you rebuild your foundation, slowly, but with intention. And here's the secret. The more you break those habits, the more power you feel returning. You'll notice your thoughts get clearer, your energy comes back, your emotions feel lighter. You're no longer carrying the guilt of actions you regret. You're no longer at war with yourself. You start to feel like someone you can rely on. And that feeling is the key to everything else. Because once you trust yourself again, everything gets easier. You don't hesitate. You don't need motivation. You don't keep second-guessing your worth. You show up because that's who you are now. You've built a version of yourself that isn't ruled by comfort or laziness or addiction. You've built someone who's in control, but none of this happens if you keep repeating the same destructive cycle. If you wake up tomorrow and do what you did today, you'll get the same results. You'll feel the same frustration. You'll look in the mirror and see the same disappointment. You've got to decide that you're done living that way. You owe it to yourself to live differently. Not later, not next year, now. You don't need a perfect plan, you need commitment. You need a decision that from this day forward, your habits will match your vision. And that means you're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to feel the urge to quit. You're going to want to go back to easy. But that's the moment you double down. That's when you remember that change only happens when you stick with it long enough to see results. And 6 months is enough. If you stay consistent for half a year, you can become unrecognizable. But it starts with one choice. Stop doing what makes you hate yourself. Stop letting those old habits run your life. Replace them with actions you can be proud of. You'll still fail some days. That's okay, but you won't quit. You'll keep showing up. You'll keep rising above your past. You'll keep creating a version of yourself that reflects strength, clarity, and self-respect. And soon, the person you used to be, the one who hid behind bad habits, will be gone, and in their place will be someone who shows up for their goals, someone who lives with discipline, someone who leads their own life. That's who you're building now. Keep going. You're not far from becoming everything you were meant to be. Chapter 3. Create a routine that forces you to grow. If you want to grow, you can't leave your days to chance. Growth does not happen on accident. It happens when you wake up with purpose and go to bed knowing you moved forward. And to make that happen, you need a routine. Not a routine that keeps you busy, not one that looks good on paper but doesn't challenge you. You need a routine that forces you to grow. A routine that pushes you to show up even when you don't feel like it. A routine that holds you to a higher standard whether you're tired or motivated or not. You build that kind of routine by first being clear about what matters. Not what looks productive, not what everyone else is doing. What matters to you. What changes your energy, what builds your confidence, what improves your skills, what protects your mental clarity. Most people start their day with distraction. They wake up and reach for their phone, they scroll, they read nonsense, they check notifications that have nothing to do with their goals. That's how they lose their morning. That's how they start reacting instead of leading. And when you start your day reacting, you stay behind the rest of the day. You can't lead your life if you don't even lead your first hour. You've got to take back control of your day. And that starts with structure. You can't keep saying, "I'll figure it out when I wake up." That's a trap. You don't rise with purpose if your plan is based on how you feel in the morning. You've got to decide the night before what kind of person you're going to be when the day starts. That's how you train your mind to follow direction instead of emotion. You wake up and you follow through, whether you want to or not, whether it's easy or not, because that's the only way you grow. And when you build your routine, don't fill it with 15 things. That's not growth, that's stress. What you want is clarity, simplicity, focus. You pick the few things that actually stretch you, that make you stronger, that improve your mindset, that sharpen your body, that clear your thinking. You don't need more activities. You need the right ones, done with consistency, done with purpose. That's how you build power. Start with your morning. What do you do in your first hour that builds you? Do you move your body? Do you clean your space? Do you eat something that fuels your energy instead of draining it? Do you take 5 minutes to review your goals or write your thoughts or breathe in silence? so you don't get pulled into chaos? If not, then you're missing the opportunity to grow before the world even asks anything of you. You're letting your most valuable time go to waste. The first hour of your day should be yours. Before anyone calls you, before the noise starts, that's when you set your direction. Then move into your work time. Ask yourself what you're actually working on. Are you doing things that matter? Are you avoiding what you need to face? Are you letting distractions run your day? Or are you focused? Are you locking in on your goals? Are you pushing yourself to get better, even if it's uncomfortable? Growth comes when you stop doing what's easy and start doing what's necessary. So your routine has to include hard things, things that make you sweat, things that require discipline, things that stretch your limits. You don't grow by doing what's convenient. You grow by doing what you'd rather avoid. In your routine, you also need reflection. That's not optional. You need time every day to stop and ask yourself, am I getting better? Am I moving in the right direction? Am I proud of how I handled today? This isn't about perfection, it's about awareness. You won't fix what you ignore. If you skip reflection, you start drifting, and you won't notice how far you've drifted until you feel lost. That's why every day, even if it's just 10 minutes, you look at yourself with honesty, you ask the hard questions. You stay connected to your direction. Evenings matter too. You can't expect to wake up strong if you go to sleep weak. If your nights are full of mindless entertainment, low-quality food and chaotic energy, don't expect your mornings to feel focused. They won't. You're not just living one day at a time, you're building momentum, and your evenings are where you reset, where you recharge, where you prepare for the next step. Your evening routine should support your goals, not erase your progress. You wind down on purpose. You plan the next day. You protect your peace. The reason most people stay stuck is because they don't put any pressure on their routine. They do what they feel like. They skip the parts that matter. They wait for motivation. They give in to excuses. That's why 6 months pass and nothing changes. That's why they start over every Monday. That's why they keep talking about the life they want but never live it. Because their routine is designed for comfort, not for growth. You've got to flip that. You've got to design a routine that demands more from you. One that builds discipline, not just results. One that teaches you to follow through when it's boring, when it's hard, when nobody's watching. That's how self-respect grows. That's how you get stronger. When you know you did what you said you would do, even when nobody gave you credit, even when quitting would have been easier. That's when you start to trust yourself again. And when you trust yourself, your world starts changing. You stop hesitating, you stop overthinking, you stop backing down. Because now you know who you are, you know you've earned that confidence, you've lived it. That kind of belief doesn't come from words, it comes from effort. It comes from a routine that pushes you to keep going when it's hard. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a simple routine done with commitment. Something you follow every day. Something that makes you feel proud. It could be waking up at the same time, drinking more water, reading 10 pages, doing 30 minutes of exercise, taking care of your room, cleaning your thoughts, following through on one important task. Whatever it is, do it with focus. Do it without excuses. Do it until it becomes normal, and then raise the bar. That's how growth works. You build a routine that challenges the weaker version of you. You wake up and do the things the old you would have avoided. You stay consistent until it becomes your identity. Not just something you do, something you are. A person who shows up, a person who leads, a person who doesn't skip the work, This is how you change everything in 6 months. Not by waiting, not by hoping, but by designing a routine that forces growth. That leaves no room for excuses. That brings out the strongest version of you day after day, and when you stick to it, your life begins to shift. Not by luck, but by effort, by structure, by focus. You're not far, you just have to start. Build a routine that pushes you forward and never look back. Chapter 4. Choose progress every day over feeling comfortable again. If you really want to change your life in 6 months, you need to get one thing straight. Comfort is not your friend. It looks like it is, it feels safe, it feels familiar, but it's the same comfort that's been holding you back for years. Every time you choose comfort, you delay your progress. Every time you pick what feels easy over what makes you grow, you trade a better life for temporary relief. You've been doing that long enough. That's why you're here. That's why you're not where you could be. You can't have both. You can't grow and stay comfortable at the same time. Progress demands something from you. It demands effort. It demands decisions that stretch you. It demands that you stop running from things just because they're hard. And if you're serious about changing, then you need to stop giving comfort all the power. You need to stop using it as an excuse to pause your progress. Growth doesn't happen when it's convenient. It happens when you keep going despite how you feel. There are moments every day where you have a choice. Wake up or sleep in, focus or scroll, cook something healthy or order junk again, speak with honesty or avoid the truth, push through the workout or skip it, open the book or turn on another distraction. These moments seem small, but they shape everything, because the person you become is the one you choose in those moments. Every time you go with comfort, you reinforce the part of you that wants to stay the same. Every time you choose progress, you build a version of you that can handle more, do more, and be more. Most people are addicted to the feeling of comfort. They don't realize it's become a routine. And the scary thing is, comfort feels good, even when it's ruining your potential. That's why it's dangerous. It doesn't come with a warning. It doesn't feel like failure. But it keeps you stuck in the same place year after year. And when you look back, you'll realize it didn't protect you. It held you down. It slowed you down. It made you settle for a life that never pushed you to be your best. You've got to start saying no to comfort when it gets in the way of who you want to become. It won't feel good at first. It might make you frustrated. It might make you tired. But choosing progress means choosing discipline. It means choosing short-term discomfort for long-term strength. It means doing what needs to be done instead of what's easy. You have goals. You have a vision for your life. But you won't get there by staying where it feels nice. You'll get there by showing up every day and doing what moves you forward. That might mean saying no when everyone else is saying yes. That might mean staying in on weekends. That might mean working when you're not in the mood. That might mean being honest with yourself when it would be easier to blame something else. That's what progress asks of you. Progress isn't loud. It doesn't always give you immediate results, but it gives you pride, it gives you growth. It gives you the kind of self-respect you can't buy or borrow. You can't fake that. You earn it by making decisions that build your future, instead of just maintaining your present. If you want to live the same year again and again, keep choosing comfort. Keep making decisions based on how little effort you can get away with. But if you want to look back 6 months from now and feel proud, feel stronger, feel better, then you've got to make a shift. You've got to tell yourself the truth. You've got to admit that comfort has cost you more than it's given you. Think about how much time you've already spent choosing the easy way. Think about how many times you said you'd start tomorrow. Think about the routines you keep going back to, even though you know they don't help you. That's not bad luck. That's a pattern, and you break that pattern by doing something uncomfortable today. Right now, start simple. Pick one thing that you've been avoiding. One thing that pushes you. Do it. Finish it. Get through it, even if you don't feel like it. And then do it again tomorrow, and the day after that. Keep doing it until it becomes your new normal. That's how change happens. Not with a big announcement, not with a sudden breakthrough, but with small choices made daily. Choices that favor growth over comfort. You will be tempted to stop. Your mind will look for reasons. It will try to convince you that you're too tired or too busy or that it doesn't matter. But you don't listen to that voice. That voice is not on your side. That voice has kept you stuck. Your job now is to recognize it and keep going anyway. You are not obligated to believe every thought that shows up in your head. You get to decide which ones get your time and energy. When you push through the discomfort, something starts to shift. You realize that you don't need to be comfortable to make progress. You start to trust your strength. You learn that you are capable of doing hard things. You develop mental endurance. You create results from effort. That feeling, that quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're no longer taking the easy way out, is what changes everything. You don't need to change your whole life overnight. You just need to stop choosing the version of you that wants to avoid effort. That version doesn't care about your goals. That version just wants relief. And the truth is, the more you feed that part of you, the harder it gets to grow. But the more you choose progress, deliberately, consistently, the more power you take back. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming the real you. The version of you that doesn't shrink when life gets hard. The version of you that shows up even without motivation. The version of you that doesn't look for shortcuts. That's who you build by choosing progress every day. There will be days when nothing feels different. You'll feel like you're putting in effort and not seeing much return, but don't stop. That's the part most people never get past. They quit because they don't see quick results, but results don't come on your timeline. They come when you stay consistent long enough to earn them. And when they come, they don't just show up in what you achieve. They show up in how you carry yourself, in how you think, in how you handle pressure, in how you walk into a room. That's the real reward, not just what you get, but who you become. The discipline, the confidence, the focus. That's what progress gives you. So from now on, make a new rule. When you face a choice between comfort and growth, choose growth. Choose effort. Choose the decision that makes you stronger. Do that every day, even when you're tired, even when you're unsure, even when it would be easier to sit back. Because every one of those choices builds something that comfort never will, a life you can respect. That's what you're after. That's what this is all for. Not just change for the sake of change, but change that means something. Change that shows you what you're capable of. Change that transforms the way you live. And you get there by doing the hard things, one decision at a time. You've wasted enough days in comfort. Now it's time to earn your progress. Chapter 5. Train your mind to stop chasing quick pleasure. If you're serious about changing your life in 6 months, you have to stop chasing things that make you feel good for a minute, but cost you days, weeks, or even years. It's not that quick pleasure is always wrong. It's that most people have trained their mind to depend on it. They can't go a day without reaching for something that gives them a little hit of dopamine. a scroll on their phone, a snack they don't need, a show that helps them avoid reality, a conversation that fills the silence but adds no value. These things might seem small, but they shape the way you live, they shape the way you think, and if you're not careful, they will shape the way your life turns out. Quick pleasure doesn't require effort. That's why it's so attractive. It gives you something now without making you earn it. But the problem is, it comes with a cost. You start depending on it. You start losing patience. You forget how to focus. You avoid things that take time because your brain is used to instant rewards. And the longer you live that way, the harder it gets to build anything meaningful. Because anything worth building, your health, your discipline, your mindset, your finances, your relationships, requires time. It requires patience. It requires you to resist the urge to escape into the easiest option every time things get hard or boring. You have to retrain your mind. You have to build tolerance for delayed gratification. That means doing things today that won't pay off until later. It means making choices that don't give you a reward right away. It means learning to sit in discomfort without reaching for a distraction. That's not easy, especially when everything around you is built to steal your focus. But you can't live like everyone else and expect different results. Most people live in cycles. They wake up, scroll, avoid, overeat, complain, repeat. They numb their stress instead of dealing with it. They look for the next easy fix instead of creating a long-term solution. And 6 months later, they wonder why nothing feels better. You have to decide that you want a better life more than you want temporary comfort. That's the shift. It happens in your mind first. You catch yourself in the moment when you're about to reach for something that adds no value. You pause. You ask, what am I avoiding right now? Most of the time, quick pleasure is just a cover. It hides boredom, stress, insecurity, or fear. And instead of facing those feelings, people cover them up with stimulation. But that doesn't solve the problem. It makes it grow. When you train your mind to stop chasing quick pleasure, you start seeing things clearly. You start to notice how often you're pulled away from what matters. You realize how much time you've spent numbing instead of growing. And that awareness is powerful, because once you see it, you can change it. You don't have to live on autopilot anymore. You don't have to be a slave to your urges. You can choose what to focus on. You can create a life that runs on discipline, not on impulse. Start with one area. Maybe it's how you use your phone. Maybe it's the food you reach for when you're stressed. Maybe it's the conversations you get pulled into when you know they don't help you grow. Whatever it is, start paying attention. And every time you catch yourself going for something quick, stop and ask, is this helping me? That simple question can change the course of your day because it brings you back to intention. It reminds you that your life is made up of the choices you repeat, not the goals you talk about. This kind of mental training isn't just about self-control, it's about power, the power to guide your own life, the power to stay grounded when the world tries to distract you, the power to stay focused when nothing exciting is happening. Most people don't have that power because they've never practiced it, but it's a skill. The more you do it, the stronger you get. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be committed. Every day you choose long-term growth over short-term pleasure. You build strength, and over time, that strength becomes your identity. There's a big difference between reacting to every urge and responding with clarity. When you react, you're being led by habit. When you respond, you're leading yourself. That's a habit you want to build, because every time you delay quick pleasure, you create room for something better, more clarity, more energy, more self-respect. These aren't just words. These are real experiences you start to feel when you stop wasting your time chasing things that give you nothing back. Look at your routine. How much of it is built around avoiding effort? Be honest. How much of your time goes into things that feel good now but lead to regret later? That's the hard truth. But it's also the key, because once you name those patterns, you can replace them. You can build a different system, one that works for you instead of against you, one that supports your goals instead of delaying them. You're not stuck. You're just following a path that needs to be changed. Train your mind to crave growth. Teach yourself to enjoy the process, even when it's slow. Remind yourself that the goal is not to feel good every second. The goal is to build a life that feels strong, meaningful, and clear, that takes work, that takes time, but the reward is worth more than anything you can get from another mindless distraction. When you stay on your path long enough, you start feeling different. You wake up with direction. You stop feeling behind. You stop needing stimulation to feel alive, because now you're driven by purpose, not impulse. This is where things change. When you start saying no to what you used to reach for, you prove to yourself that you're serious. You prove that your vision is stronger than your cravings, and that proof matters. It builds belief. It builds momentum. It makes the next decision easier. You stop negotiating with habits that don't serve you. You stop waiting for the perfect time. You stop living like you have unlimited chances. You've had enough short-term relief. You've seen where that leads. It's time to try something else. It's time to make decisions that stretch you instead of shrinking you. It's time to train your mind like your future depends on it, because it does. You don't need to do everything at once. Just start with the next moment, the next decision. That's all it takes. One moment of discipline at a time. Keep choosing the path that takes longer, feels harder, and gives more back. That's where your future is built. Chapter 6. Start doing the hard things you always avoid. The change you're looking for will only come when you stop running from the things you've been avoiding. Everyone has hard things they put off, conversations they don't want to have, decisions they don't want to face, work they know they need to do but keep postponing. That avoidance adds up. It builds pressure, it builds stress, and over time it turns into frustration with yourself. You wonder why you feel stuck, why nothing changes, but deep down, you know the answer. You're avoiding the work that matters. You're delaying the exact actions that would move your life forward. The truth is simple. If something is hard, it probably matters. If it's uncomfortable, it probably has value. Most people wait for the hard things to get easier, but they don't. They wait for the fear to disappear, but it won't. The only way it gets easier is by doing it, by facing it, by walking into it while your hands shake, while your voice trembles, while your mind tells you to run. That's how growth begins, not by avoiding difficulty, but by stepping right into it. You have to get used to discomfort. You have to accept that growth lives on the other side of resistance. When you make a habit of avoiding what challenges you, you train yourself to settle, you lower your standard, you become a person who only moves when it feels safe. That might keep you comfortable, but it will never make you proud. And you can't live a strong life if you're not proud of how you show up. Start small. Make a list of the things you've been avoiding, the tasks, the responsibilities, the conversations, the commitments. Write them down without justifying them. Look at them clearly. These are the things standing between you and the progress you keep talking about. These are the choices you've been putting off because they require effort, emotion, or risk. And until you start checking them off, you're going to stay in the same place. You're not stuck because you're not capable. You're stuck because you're choosing easy. You're stuck because your days are filled with comfort, not challenge. You finish each day knowing you avoided something important, and that's why your confidence slips. Not because you failed, but because you didn't even try. You didn't give yourself the chance to prove you could handle it. You told yourself, "I'll deal with it later," and that lie becomes a habit, a way of living. The only way to break that habit is through action. You take the first step. You do the hard thing today, not next week, not when you feel ready. Now, you face what you've been avoiding, and you deal with it directly. It might not feel good, it might not be smooth, but it will shift your momentum. That first hard action starts a new story, a story where you're the one in control, a story where you stop running. Hard things are your training ground. They build character, they build grit, they build respect, first for yourself, then from others. The people you admire, they didn't get there by avoiding struggle. They stepped into it. They learned to stay steady when things got uncomfortable. You have that same ability, but you won't find it until you challenge yourself. You won't feel it until you stop protecting your comfort and start building your strength. This is where discipline begins, not in perfect routines, but in uncomfortable choices. You answer the email, you pay the debt, you clean the room, you apologize, you speak up, you say no, you set the boundary, you do the workout, you finish the task, you show up on the days you feel off, you don't negotiate with yourself, you don't search for motivation, you simply act. That habit alone can change everything. You'll learn something important when you start doing the hard things. They're never as bad as they seem in your mind. It's the anticipation that wears you out, not the task itself. Once you get into it, your body moves, your mind focuses, and when it's done, you feel lighter, you feel clear, you feel in control again. You realize that fear was just a fog, and action cuts through it. This new way of living doesn't happen overnight. It happens by showing up each day and asking yourself, what am I avoiding today? And then doing it. You build that muscle just like you build strength in the gym, one rep at a time, one challenge at a time, and as you keep going, the hard things don't disappear, but you become the kind of person who can handle them. When you avoid hard things, you carry more weight. You don't save energy by running from work. You spend more energy thinking about it, stressing about it, and punishing yourself for not doing it. That's not a smart trade, that's a draining way to live. You'll feel more alive taking uncomfortable action than sitting still with regrets. The 6 months ahead can change your life, but only if you start doing what you've been pushing aside. That's how change becomes real, not by adding more goals, not by writing a longer to-do list, but by facing what's already in front of you, the thing you keep saying you'll get to later. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for someone to push you. Push yourself. Look at the task, look at the problem, look at the truth you've been avoiding, and do something about it. Start with the smallest part. Make the call, send the message, take the first step. That's all you need to get the momentum moving. And once you move, don't stop. Keep going until the hard thing is no longer something you fear, but something you finish. Every day you do this, you build something. You build confidence, you build clarity, you build a different level of self-trust. That's worth more than comfort. That's what will carry you when life gets even harder. Because it will. But you'll be stronger by then. You'll be ready. There's no growth in avoidance. There's no peace in procrastination. And there's no pride in playing small. Do what needs to be done, even if it's hard, especially if it's hard. Because when you do the things that others avoid, you start creating a life that others will never have. You don't need motivation. You need action. You don't need comfort. You need courage. And you don't need more time. You need to start now. So stop waiting. Go face the thing you've been avoiding. Not tomorrow, today. That's where the change begins. Chapter 7. Build proof that you can trust yourself again. There's a quiet pain that builds up when you stop trusting yourself. You don't always notice it at first. It starts when you say you'll do something and then don't follow through. When you promise yourself you'll wake up early, but you hit snooze again. When you tell yourself you'll start eating better, but by the evening you've slipped back into the same routine. When you say you'll work on your goals, but instead you spend your time on distractions. These might seem like small decisions, but over time they break something inside you. Not just momentum, but belief. And without belief you stop trying, you stop aiming higher, you start settling, and maybe the worst part is you stop seeing yourself as someone who can be relied on. That's what happens when your actions no longer match your intentions. You say one thing, you feel one thing, but your behavior tells a different story. And you can only live like that for so long before you feel it in your confidence, your mood, and your future. But here's the good news. You can fix it, not by talking about change, not by planning it, but by building proof. Proof that you can trust yourself again, not because someone told you, not because it looks good, but because every single day you show up for yourself. You can rebuild that trust one step at a time. You start small. You set a promise that you know you can keep, not something massive but something meaningful, and then you do it. You don't wait to feel ready. You don't hope for perfect conditions. You get it done because you said you would. That one act alone starts the process. You do it again the next day, and the next, and each time you feel something shift. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's steady, it's quiet, but it's real. You begin to walk differently, think differently. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop talking yourself out of action. And why? Because now you have evidence. Evidence that when you say you'll do something, you actually do it. That's what trust is. Not a feeling, not motivation. Trust is built through repeated action. Every decision becomes a message to yourself. When you quit halfway, you tell yourself your words don't mean much. When you push through, even when it's hard, you prove that your effort is real, and your brain starts paying attention. It starts updating the story it tells about who you are. And that's important because the story you believe about yourself shapes everything. If your mind believes you're unreliable, you'll keep making decisions that match that identity. If your mind believes you're disciplined, consistent and focused, you'll behave accordingly. And the only way to change that internal story is through consistent action. There's no shortcut. You don't talk your way into a new identity, you act your way into it. Start with something simple. Wake up when you say you will. If you said 6:30, then it's 6:30, not 6:45. Not after checking your phone. You get up and you move, not because you feel like it, but because it's time to rebuild who you are. That small victory sets the tone. Then move on to another area. If you said you'd write for 30 minutes, write. If you promised yourself a workout, finish it. If you said no junk food for today, hold that line. These acts matter more than you think. They're not about productivity, they're about rebuilding a relationship with yourself. You've had people break promises to you, and you know how that feels. You've probably cut people out because they kept saying one thing and doing another, and yet so often we tolerate that exact behavior from ourselves. You can't expect to respect yourself if you keep disappointing yourself. That's not discipline, that's self-betrayal. And the longer you live like that, the harder it is to believe you're capable of real change. But the moment you stop making excuses and start showing up with consistency, that narrative begins to collapse. And yes, there will be moments when you slip. You'll miss a day, you'll fall short, you'll want to start over. That's part of it. But even in those moments, you don't have to fall back into the old pattern. You don't need to wait for a new week or a new month. You get back on track immediately. That's how you prove to yourself that you don't need to spiral every time something doesn't go perfectly. You're not starting over, you're continuing forward. That's the difference between people who grow and people who repeat the same year again and again. The ones who grow have setbacks too, but they keep going. And the more you keep going, the more belief you build. Not borrowed belief, not hype, real belief, the kind that shows up in your posture, the kind that comes through in your tone when you speak, the kind that makes you walk into challenges with quiet certainty, because you know you've faced difficulty before and you didn't run. This kind of proof takes time. It's not instant, but it compounds. It grows stronger with each act of follow-through. And over time, you won't have to convince yourself to believe in your potential. You'll already believe it because your behavior reflects it. That's what you're working toward, a version of yourself that you don't question anymore. This version of you doesn't rely on hype. It doesn't need permission. It doesn't make excuses. It shows up. It adapts. It grows. It keeps promises. That's who you are becoming, not through talk, through work, through action, through daily proof that you are capable of becoming someone you trust. There's a powerful feeling that comes with knowing you can depend on yourself. You stop chasing validation. You stop trying to prove anything to anyone else. You live with peace because you know the truth about who you are and how you show up. And the world feels different when you move with that kind of energy. So if you've lost trust in yourself, don't waste time feeling guilty about it. Start doing something about it. Today, not by making more promises, but by keeping the ones already in front of you. Choose one, keep it, then do it again. Stack those wins, create your own evidence, and let that evidence build a foundation that you can stand on. This is how you change in 6 months, not by being perfect, not by having all the answers, but by becoming someone whose actions align with their words, someone who doesn't break their own trust anymore, someone who rises above excuses and leads themselves forward. That version of you is waiting. Now it's time to earn it. Chapter 8. Remove people who drain your drive to improve. One of the most important decisions you'll ever make in your life is who you choose to allow into your space. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Not everyone who smiles is on your side. Some people don't come to support you. Some come to distract you, to drain you, to keep you exactly where you are. And if you're serious about growing, about building something meaningful, about becoming someone you can be proud of, then you need to pay attention to who's around you. The truth is, not all relationships are healthy. Some are built on comfort, not growth. Some are built on history, not alignment. And if you keep surrounding yourself with people who don't want to change, who don't want more, who laugh at your discipline, who roll their eyes at your goals, then eventually you'll start shrinking to fit their version of reality. And you'll tell yourself it's fine. You'll say you're being loyal, that you're being patient, that you don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but in the process, you slowly lose your edge, you lose your ambition, you lose your fire, you stop showing up the way you know you need to. You've got to protect your mind, because growth takes energy, it takes clarity, it takes consistency, and you can't stay focused if you're always being pulled into conversations that lower your standards. You can't stay committed if you're constantly surrounded by people who question your discipline. You can't build a strong life in an environment that's built around comfort, distractions and excuses. It doesn't work. And deep down you already know that. Think about the people you spend the most time with. Do they challenge you to grow, or do they give you permission to stay the same? Do they talk about ideas and goals and self-respect? Or do they talk about problems and other people and nonsense that doesn't matter? After you spend time with them, do you feel focused and clear, or tired and distracted? These are not small questions. These are the kinds of questions that determine whether you build a powerful life or waste years in a cycle of mediocrity. Sometimes the hardest part about growth is realizing that you've outgrown certain people. And that doesn't make them bad. It doesn't mean you're better than them. It just means you're going in a different direction. And if you want to keep going forward, you can't keep holding on to relationships that belong to your past. You have to make space. You have to clear the path. You can't take everyone with you. You know exactly who these people are. You feel it in your gut when you're around them. You feel drained, not energized. You feel like you have to hide your goals. You feel like you're always explaining yourself, always being told to relax, to stop trying so hard, to be more like them. And that pressure, that's not support, that's fear disguised as advice. Because when you grow, you force people to look at themselves, and not everyone wants to do that. So instead of rising with you, they try to pull you back. You have to decide what kind of life you want. If you want comfort, keep everyone around. Don't rock the boat. Keep saying yes when you want to say no. Keep listening to opinions that add no value. Keep giving your time and energy to people who don't respect your direction. But if you want clarity, focus, and real change, then it's time to clean up your circle. It's time to have honest conversations. And sometimes, it's time to walk away. You don't have to announce it. You don't have to explain it. You just stop giving your time to the wrong people. You stop making room for conversations that lead nowhere. You stop answering calls that drain you. You stop participating in energy that makes you doubt yourself. It's not about hate. It's about boundaries. It's about choosing peace over chaos, progress over stagnation, growth over comfort. And once you start doing this, something powerful happens. You get your energy back. You get your mental clarity back. You start feeling more like yourself again, because you're no longer spending your days filtering your goals through someone else's fear. You're no longer editing your dreams to make other people feel comfortable. You're no longer apologizing for wanting more. You just start moving. You start building. You start living. And yes, it can feel lonely at first. Because when you leave behind the noise, you create silence, but in that silence, you find yourself, you hear your own thoughts, you reconnect with your vision, you get to build your own standard again, without anyone dragging it down. That's when growth really begins, when you realize that not everyone is meant to walk with you, and that's okay. You'll also start attracting new people, people who speak the same language, people who don't flinch when you talk about goals, people who hold you accountable, people who value discipline and growth and truth. But those people won't show up until you make space for them. If your life is filled with low-energy relationships, you won't even notice the people who are ready to push you forward. That's why the clearing is necessary. That's why you must let go first. This doesn't mean cutting off everyone you disagree with. It means becoming intentional. It means being protective of your environment. It means recognizing that your circle is either helping you evolve or holding you down. And if someone consistently drains you, distracts you, or makes you feel smaller, then it's your responsibility to do something about it. You have limited time. You can't spend it walking in circles with people who have no interest in getting better. You can't waste it explaining why you're trying to change. You can't give it to people who only show up to complain, gossip, or distract you. That's not real connection. That's comfort in disguise, and it comes with a cost. The people around you influence more than just your mood. They shape your identity. They shape what you believe is possible. They shape how you see yourself. That's why this chapter matters, because when you stop settling for draining relationships, you take your power back, you take your mind back, you start living on your terms again. So take a hard look, ask the tough questions. Who drains your focus? Who makes you feel small? Who do you feel exhausted around? Who distracts you from your vision? And be honest. Don't defend them. Don't justify it. Just see it for what it is. Then take action, set boundaries, create space, move forward without guilt, because your future is not a group project, it's your responsibility, and you don't owe access to anyone who doesn't value your effort to grow. This is your season to build, to heal, to focus, to rise, and not everyone can come with you. Some people are chapters, not the whole story. Respect that, honor your journey, and never again allow someone to dim your light just because they're afraid to shine their own. Your growth is worth protecting, your future is worth fighting for, and if that means removing the wrong people from your life, then do it with confidence. You're not being harsh, you're being honest, and sometimes honesty is the highest form of self-respect. Chapter 10. Take ownership of every choice you make today. The way your life turns out will come down to the choices you make every single day, not just the big ones, not just the ones people can see, all of them. The small, quiet ones when no one's watching, the uncomfortable ones you try to avoid, the ones you know you need to make but keep delaying. Those are the choices that shape your direction. And until you learn to take full ownership of those choices, without blaming, without avoiding, without shifting responsibility, nothing meaningful will change. Ownership is not about guilt. It's not about beating yourself up. It's about accepting that your life is a direct reflection of what you decide to do with your time, your energy, and your focus. You are not powerless. You are not stuck. You are making choices every day, and those choices are building your reality. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you can begin creating a life that actually feels like yours. Every day, you decide how you spend your time. You either use it on something that brings you closer to your goals, or you waste it on something that pulls you further away. You decide how you treat your body, you decide what you allow into your mind, you decide whether you keep that promise to yourself or break it again. You decide whether you react or respond, whether you delay or deliver, whether you make progress or just stay busy. If you keep saying "I didn't have time," or "that's just how things are," you're giving your power away. You're choosing a story that says you're not in control, but you are. Maybe not of every situation, but always of how you show up, always of what you do next. And that's where your power lives, in the decision to stop making excuses and start taking full responsibility for everything you can control. You have to stop waiting for something outside of you to change. A better job, a more supportive environment, a perfect moment. That moment you're waiting for doesn't exist. And while you wait, life keeps moving. More time passes, more energy drains, more confidence fades. Ownership means stepping into the truth that everything you do today matters. Not next year, not someday, today. So if you eat garbage all day, skip your work, avoid your goals, waste hours on distractions, and then tell yourself you had no choice, that's not ownership, that's avoidance. And the longer you avoid ownership, the more trapped you feel. But once you decide, "I chose that," something shifts. You stop lying to yourself. You stop giving in to the old habits. You feel that discomfort, and you use it. You use it to change, to lead, to build something different. Ownership means you stop blaming people for the things you keep choosing. If someone disrespects you and you let it slide, that's your choice. If you stay in a place that drains your growth, that's your choice. If you don't speak up when it matters, that's your choice. It's hard to admit, but it's freeing, because once you own your part, you can change your part. You stop waiting for someone else to fix it, and you take the lead. This doesn't mean everything is your fault, but it does mean your growth is your responsibility. No one owes you discipline. No one's coming to hand you a better mindset. No one can force you to care. That's on you. And if you want to grow, you've got to stop being casual with your choices. They're not small. They shape your outcomes. And when you take ownership of each one, you build a foundation that can't be shaken by circumstances. Start small. When you wake up, don't just roll into the day. Decide what kind of energy you're going to bring. Choose your attitude. Choose your behavior. If you say you're going to eat clean, then do it. If you say you're going to work out, then move. If you commit to working for 2 hours, then lock in and finish. Don't outsource the responsibility to motivation or comfort. Just follow through. That's ownership in action. You'll feel stronger the more you do this. Not because life gets easier, but because you stop avoiding what needs to be done. And when things go wrong, and they will, you don't spiral. You look at it honestly. You ask, where did I fall short? You learn. You adjust. You improve. That's what ownership allows you to do. It keeps you moving forward. It doesn't get stuck in blame. It finds a solution. When you start taking full ownership of your choices, people will notice. Some won't understand it. They're used to blaming, to complaining, to waiting, but you're not living that way anymore. You're leading. You're making decisions based on who you want to become, not what feels good right now. And that kind of mindset changes everything. You become more disciplined. You stop negotiating with your bad habits. You start leading yourself even when it's hard. You begin to respect yourself, not because you're perfect, but because you're accountable. And when you make a mistake, you don't hide. You admit it. You learn from it. You adjust. That's what real growth looks like. Taking ownership gives you clarity. You no longer wonder why things aren't working. You already know what needs to change. You stop blaming your environment and start upgrading it. You stop pointing at others and start looking inward. That's how you reclaim your life. That's how you stop repeating the same patterns. Not by wishing for different results, but by making different choices. You've made enough decisions you regret, enough days wasted, enough chances delayed. From this point forward, you get intentional. You take responsibility for what time you wake up, for how you speak to others, for how you treat your body, for how you use your focus, for how you handle pressure, for how you move through discomfort. You choose the hard thing when it leads to growth. You choose the honest path, even when it's uncomfortable. You choose to act like your future depends on what you do today, because it does. And when you stack those choices, day after day, you build something real. You build momentum. You build self-trust. You build a life you don't need to escape from, because you know you earned it. It wasn't luck. It wasn't handed to you. It was built from ownership, from effort, from full responsibility.